The video is just 9 seconds long. Its consequences could last a lifetime.
It's the caught on camera moment that is raising questions about race and privilege on a college campus in the American South. Fraternity brothers seen on video engaging in a racist chant.
They've officially severed ties with the frat over a racially offensive party and the pictures involved in that.
A member of the Kappa Sigma fraternity uses racial slurs, referring to African American, Indian, and Asian women.
1 week ago, a notebook filled with sexist and racially offensive entries was found in a restaurant off campus. Authorities quickly tied the book to the Tau chapter of Pi Kappa Phi.
The incident at NC State is particularly, it's not funny, but it's ironic because I know for a fact fraternities at Chapel Hill do very similar things, like for sure.
I always wanted to go to UNC ever since I was in 8th grade, probably. I actually got a scholarship to South Carolina freshman year for voice, and so I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to South Carolina. And then I was there, and then I was like, well, I still really want to be at UNC, so then I transferred in. I entered my freshman year not really knowing much about Greek life. I knew that a bunch of my friends from high school wanted to join different fraternities, and I didn't really have that much of a background about it. I didn't have that much information, but I knew going to South Carolina that it wasn't going to be the easiest place to get accustomed to.
I rushed my second week of being at school at UNC, and I came to UNC not knowing a single person. I'm from out of state, and joining an IFC fraternity made a lot of sense the second week of school. My father and mother were involved in Greek organizations in college. I grew up in a house where like paddles were on the wall, like with their Greek letters, and everyone I knew in high school was doing it. And joining it to me just meant, I don't know, it was just natural. It was like a continuation of who I was, I would say, at the time.
At Carolina, there are 4 Greek councils that serve as student-led governing bodies for our 57 fraternities and sororities on campus. So we have a Greek Alliance Council, a National Panhellenic Council, a Panhellenic Council, and the Interfraternity Council. So IFC is just the shorthand for the Interfraternity Council.
When I think of the IFC fraternities, that's like your traditional sense of what it means to be like a fraternity at a big Southern public university, with like Greek letters, almost all white and pretty privileged.
Lots of times when we're describing IFC groups, we might call them traditionally housed fraternities and sororities. I often refer to them as traditionally or historically white fraternities and sororities. If you look back at the history of those groups, many of them began as historically white organizations. It's one of the reasons why we have historically black Greek letter organizations or multicultural organizations, because at the founding, many of them in the 1800s or early 1900s, either on the campuses where they were formed, students of color were not represented at all because they weren't able to attend those institutions.
There was actually one fraternity where I became friends with a lot of the guys there, and a bunch of them really wanted me to get a bid and be accepted into their fraternity and start the pledging process. But one of the younger guys actually told me, he was like, man, I'm really sorry that things aren't going to work out, but like if you weren't African American, you would be a shoo-in. And I was just like, excuse me? And he was kind of like, no, I didn't mean for it to come off that way. I didn't mean for, I'm not, like, dude, you're my boy, you know, it's not, I don't feel that way. And I was just like, well, it's interesting because you say you don't feel that way, yet you just joined the fraternity where all of this certain attitude is being, like, forced on you, and everyone is kind of, like, going in this certain direction of blatant racism.
If someone is rushing that is not white, race even if it's not mentioned, it's definitely on everyone's mind. Even if it's not talked about, sometimes it is straight up. People will say, no, at this point, we have too many people of color in the fraternity. We don't need any more because that hurts our image. That is certainly one point of view. Another is the opposite, like, no, we want to make ourselves look good in another way by having more people of color. But one way or the other, it's part of the equation.
I can say I've been at Carolina for 5 years. I cannot recall a single incident of a specific student coming to me and saying, I didn't get in because of X.
It's hard to cope with what is being said behind closed doors, especially when my friends are a part of organizations where I know negative things are being said about all races, not just African Americans, but about a bunch of different minorities.
So I think these incidents, these actions that are in the news are what I call you could call them tipping points, or you could call them catalyst moments for a really deep dialogue, not so much about what happened on that campus, but what might that look like on our campus, and what does that look like on our campus.
I think unanimously people at Chapel Hill would say being in a fraternity and being associated with those events is embarrassing. And I'm sure if you had asked the guys at those chapters about similar incidents, they would have said, oh, that would never happen here.
I always wonder, like, how my friends who are in Greek life can say, well, I'm not racist, I don't have those certain views, like, I don't feel that way at all, but I'm still going to be a part of an organization where a bunch of other people do feel a certain way, and then I'm going to even further that and call these people my brothers.
I have certainly experienced a lot of guilt in my time here, and even before, because I have actively participated in something that's actively discriminated against other people for a long time.
I think it's caused folks to really reflect back on their own campus. To what degree do we create safe environments within our organizations? To what degree are we inclusive and accepting to individuals from a whole diversity of backgrounds?
My involvement has decreased significantly, and it's not something that I think when I look back at my college years. I'm not sorry I joined a fraternity. I've had a lot of great times, and I've made some very quality friends that I intend to have for life. But it's not something that I'm proud of. I think it's hard to be proud of something like, especially in light of what's been going on in the country in the last month and a half, that directly associates you with those events.
We don't live in a post-racist society, which a lot of people like to, behind their white picket fence, think that we do. That's not the way it is. And the intersectionality in my life of being black and gay and being here at Chapel Hill and having a lot of friends in Greek life, and then also at South Carolina, it affected me. This is to not say that my experience, like, is constant for everybody. This is just my individual experience. And my individual experience here at UNC with Greek life has been very positive for the most part.
It's hard to say who's racist and who's not, because so much of it is groupthink. First years and sophomores, they're like learning what it means to be a good fraternity from the example set by the older brothers, and so it's just kind of this vicious cycle.
I just hope that people can learn to talk about these issues in a very constructive manner, in a way where one person can hear from someone who thinks negatively about Greek life, and then another person can hear from someone who thinks positively about Greek life, and they can learn from each other to see where each person is coming from. Because that's definitely something that I've been so blessed to be able to do with my best friends who are in Greek life. Like, I have these type of conversations all the time, and it's always enlightening for me to hear their side of it when these certain issues come up in the media. When I transferred here, I was so pleased to see so many different people involved in Greek life here. Although it's still pretty much predominantly white in the IFC in Panhandle, it's like you have whites, you have blacks, you have Asians, you have Latinos, you have homosexuals, you have everything like mixed in with everybody. So I was like, wow, thank you. Like Chapel Hill, this is what it should be like.
I'm just holding on for tonight, on for tonight, on for tonight.
I think that before anything that's wrong with the fraternity system is solved, people need to be honest about why people join fraternities, and it's just to lay it out, it's because people look like you and they're rich and they throw good parties. And like that is the only reason. If someone told me otherwise, it would take a lot for me to believe them.
Tau Kappa Epsilon or TEEP held a Martin
In
Luther
a
Day party
statement,
and
Ray
called
says
it
that
Black
alcohol
Night.
was a factor in his actions and that he is deeply sorry
You
for
can
what
never
he did.
trust and then the N-word as far as you can throw them. Dude, it's
Another
just
student
hot
in the
enough.
video
She doesn't need a
identified by his
coat.
parents
Man,
as
that
Levi
tree is so
Bethel.
perfect for lynching.
He's not a racist.